Who actually needs an advisor? It's a great question, right? One that you might be asking yourself, especially as you acquire more wealth. In this video, we're going to talk about that. We're going to dive into why you want an advisor, the purpose of the advisor, what they do for you, and maybe even who doesn't need an advisor. That's coming up. Welcome into The Wealthy Life. Ben George with Harrison Quinn of HDQ Wealth. And Harrison, we're shining the spotlight back on you a little bit more today and talking about who needs an advisor. I'm sure you probably have friends and meet people and kind of run in circles where people probably ask you, what do you do? Why do I need to actually work with someone?
It's a consistent question, but it is one I love to answer because there's a combination of answers and it's a little bit different for everyone. Because the reality is there are people who seriously need a financial advisor, a wealth advisor, a financial planner, there's 100 different names that we give ourselves. And there are a group of people who don't necessarily need one. And that's okay.
Yeah, that is okay. And we're going to talk through that and kind of at least shine the spotlight on what you do, but also what to look for when you're trying to find an advisor. And if you have any questions, hdqwealth.com, great place to start there. You can learn more about what they do and how they help people build that wealthy life and maintain it and give you back more of your time, which is so important. But I want to start off with the advisor role and what they actually do, because I think a lot of people have questions and I think a lot of times just assume, hey, you guys all do the same thing.
It's that's probably the most challenging piece, is that there are 100 different titles at 100 different firms and people are doing 100 different things. And to keep it a little simple, what people, when they're looking for financial advice on whether it's their financial planning, investment management, insurance strategies, retirement planning, estate planning, things like that. If you're looking for kind of the whole gamut, you really want to find somebody who either calls themselves or holds themselves as a financial planner or a wealth advisor or wealth manager, because a little bit of the difference, and again, I work in the business and it's confusing. You have investment advisors or investment managers, and those individuals may lean more towards just investment specific advice, to where you give me money, I'll manage it for a fee, and I'll tell you once a year if it's up or down. And then you have, the financial services professional, the kind of more elusive names that people can call themselves. And sometimes those people might not even be investment or securities licensed or the ability to provide real financial advice or investment management services. And then really the kind of like in the middle is the financial advisor, wealth advisor, financial planner. And for most people who are looking for confidence in their financial plan and hoping to maybe make the best use of their assets and their resources, that's what you're looking for: a financial planner, a wealth advisor, someone like that, because that's someone who can be at the top of your financial plan and casting down and saying, hey, these are the things you need to look at. These are the things that you need to make important. And here are the decisions along the way to really optimize for efficiencies.
Well, I know, this shows the wealthy life. And as people acquire more assets, I think maybe the common idea is that it's easier, right? If you have more, you have more options, more flexibility, but things get more sophisticated, right? And planning even becomes much more important as you continue to increase your assets and build that wealth over time, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And the interesting part is, and kind of like one of our unofficial mantras really is, what we hope to do for our clients is to provide confidence in their financial plan, their financial assets, and give them back time. And as we work with a lot of business owners, people who have kind of complex situations, they're short on time, right? It's one of our most valuable currencies. And so what we try to do is manage that highest efficiency when it comes to their personal finances. And it's funny, people do conflate success, financial success, business and professional success with strong money management skills. And that almost has, an inverse effect on what that may look like, because people who have companies or large families or a large estate, they want to recruit people to assist and help and manage their overall finances. And so, once you increase the complexity of your life, whether it's from a personal standpoint or a professional standpoint, that's where you really want to lean in and start talking to people to, at a minimum, double check and say, hey, what am I doing? Is this correct? Is this okay? And where could I maybe fill those holes?
Yeah, I think that's a great point about business owners and people that are successful doesn't mean they are good money managers, right? I think those two don't always go hand in hand, which is so important. You build that wealth, you're successful. You want to make sure that transitions and you can carry that on, take care of your family, build whatever financial goals you have for a legacy, whatever that might be. You want to make sure you take care of that. And again, that's why you work with an advisor. And I think the hardest thing to do, I think a lot of times when you're out there looking for one, is just knowing what to look for. So how would you suggest somebody approach that if they're deciding, okay, now I'm ready to have somebody assist me with my finances and help me kind of get everything in order? What should I be looking for?
There's a lot of things to look for, and to not overcomplicate it, and to provide a little confidence in the industry is almost wherever you go, especially in bigger firms, you can find a good advisor. But what I promote to a lot of people in the industry and our clients and people who come to us and chat about wanting and seeking investment and financial planning advice is there are systems and firms that are set up far better to provide an end result, which is good advice for the client. And so what that all means is optimally, if you could find a firm that is completely independent, so not with a bank, not with an insurance company, not with an asset management company, it's known as an independent RIA, registered investment advisor. There you're going to find the most optimal setup for the advisors who are working with their clients to be unbiased and fiduciaries when they're providing investment advice or financial planning advice. And if you can have someone who's credentialed with like a CFP or different types of, the alphabet soup behind people's names, that's sometimes nice. But as a CFP, and I'm very proud of that title, and it was a difficult test and studies and all those things, is a big undertaking to achieve. People conflate, the letters after your name, with best for me, meaning, you have all these different designations and go, oh, that guy's really smart, that girl's really smart, they're going to give me the best advice. That's just not necessarily true. And so you really want to find a firm that you relate to, an advisor that you like and you trust, because the hope is, and the goal is, to achieve your wealthy life, is that you have this partner who's managing your finances and advising you on all things finances in your life as you grow, children, switching jobs, buying and selling houses, buying and selling businesses, death, birth, college, all these things that are natural in the human life cycle. You want someone who can, one, take that ride with you, right? If you're, 50, having an advisor who's 20 years, your senior is not that advantageous for you. That person may be more focused on their own retirement, and they're definitely, or God willing, not going to outlive you. And so if you have the luxury of finding an advisor that's possibly even younger than you, that's a really big asset. But the unfortunate part for a lot of individuals, I think the average advisor right now is like between 57 and 62. And so to find those younger advisors is becoming more and more difficult. So really, at the end of the day, you need someone that you can communicate with, be honest with, and someone that you like and you trust, because that is going to be your wealthy life partner.
And you can find out and learn more about that in those initial meetings, right? Whether it be with you or whoever you sit down with to try to figure out, okay, is this the right fit? There's a lot of things you can be asking. So I'm curious, what would you suggest someone that first conversation, when they have that introduction with you, what should they be looking like? What are some things they can maybe ask or to help kind of get a better feel if this is going to be the right fit?
Yeah, I mean, what you want to be asking, or at least thinking about when I call it interviewing an advisor, is a really simple one. Is, how is your firm set up and who are you working with, right? Because the important part is it a part, do you have a team? Who will you be talking to when you're actually working with someone? And, the biggest thing is, how are you compensated? So that's the cool part about independent RIAs is all of our fees are completely transparent, meaning it's not like going to the hospital. where you get a broken leg and you get a bill 3 months later for $25,000, right? Like on our end, on the independent RIA standpoint, everything's upfront, everything's incredibly clear. And so the fees that you're getting charged, and how your advisor's getting paid and where those motivations align. And so, asking someone how they're getting paid, how they're motivated to do their actual job is really, really important. And it's important to ask, people like, who do they work with? Who do they like to work with? And what do you see this relationship looking like? One of our, incoming forms we ask people to complete is, what can this relationship look like that is very successful for you, the end client? Because at the end of the day, like, that's what you want from this. You want to feel successful. You want to be successful with this relationship. A funny question we get, not incredibly often, but often enough, is people will say, like, what's your average return? And I'd say if you're looking for an advisor, don't ask that question. Or you could see how they respond. Because it completely depends, right? Like, I think our oldest client is 87 years old, and our youngest client's 19. And so they're going to have hopefully different types of returns and risks and portfolio allocations. And so if someone asks, like, what's our average return, we don't answer, because it's impossible to answer. And to that too is, we've got clients who are selling companies and having big exits or maybe large inheritances. And those groups of people are not looking for the biggest growth or return on their portfolio. They're in their stage where they're trying to preserve capital, manage taxes, and really get a handle on their estate, so that when, they transition to the next generation, there's money still there and it's being properly managed. But those are a few questions that you can use to ask or consider when you're kind of interviewing advisors. But you can go to Google. I mean, you're probably going to get a lot of the big banks, and all the big names that you see that sponsor stadiums and things like that. But, talk to people, talk to different types of advisors, I think is really important.
Yeah, it is important. And that's a good point about returns. I mean, that's what everybody kind of thinks about and it cares about, but I know so much more that goes into what you do to help people have that confidence in retirement and to live that wealthy life. I'll play devil's advocate here to kind of close things out, though. If someone is a kind of a do-it-yourselfer, loves managing money, enjoys that side of things, tell me who is someone that maybe doesn't need an advisor, or is there a situation where you wouldn't need an advisor?
It's a great question. And we've absolutely gotten, introductions, ironically, a lot to people who, in our opinion, is not a good fit, or maybe doesn't want or doesn't need an advisor. And although I think most people out there who have an income, have dependents, have, expenses and assets and debts, things like that, could benefit from speaking with a financial professional, there's definitely a group of individuals out there who shouldn't work with an advisor. And I would say the number one person is someone who doesn't take advice well, right? If someone's going to give you advice and you're not going to do it, then that's a pretty poor relationship. And we've had, clients who are no longer clients be in that boat. And that's, it's unfortunate, but it's okay, right? To where they'll recruit us to help lock in their finances, create that wealthy life that they're really looking for. And we'll create the line item of things that, hey, we think you should be doing this, we should be doing that. And, after however long, they don't do those things, and we go our separate ways. And again, it's not that we don't want to work with everybody, personally, and not everybody should be working with us. So you need to have an open mind and a learning spirit to be able to work with someone that you're hiring to provide advice to. And yeah, I mean, the traditional DIYer, we've worked with a lot of people like that. We've talked with a lot of people like that, and they can be a fit. But again, if your whole goal is to spend hours a week in your spreadsheets or looking at stocks to invest in or things like that, then why are you compensating a financial professional to do those things for you? And you obviously value being in control and your opinion over someone who's a professional and does that for a living. And like I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest things that we do give our clients is time back in their life. And most of our clients value that much more than having a hand in what their entire portfolio looks like, or what their financial plan looks like. I mean, that's quite literally why we're here. And I mean, the perfect like visual example is if you're looking at the person, who's pulling up to the oil change shop, like a Valvoline, who's standing over the engine, kind of throwing their finger at the guy underneath who's changing the oil, telling them this and that. And it's like, you should probably just change your oil yourself, right? Don't go to the auto shop and have them change the oil and get berated by them. Like, just go change it yourself. But the interesting part is that person throwing their finger probably doesn't know how to change the oil. And so that's, sometimes we'll run into those individuals where we'll have a meeting and they end up telling us, all of what they think. And at the end of the day, we're advisors. We consult with our clients. We're here to advise. We're not forcers. We're not, executioners, or not executioners, whatever it is. But, we're not here to force people to do things. We're here to advise. And so we can provide advice and people can take that or they can not take it. But at the end of the day, you have to have someone who's receptive to advice, wants to improve on their current situation and wants to delegate and provide, that option for more time in their life that is not considered, when building and securing their financial plan.
Good explanation. Really a lot to think about. If you are wondering if you need an advisor, best thing to do is sit down, have a conversation with Harrison, learn more about that process, how they help their clients there at HDQ Wealth. You can learn more at hdqwealth.com. Again, everything is in the show description. Find it there if you want to learn more. But good breakdown. I know if you have any further questions, Harrison's open to having a conversation with you, answering those for you directly. But hopefully this video helps you out. So thanks for watching The Wealthy Life. Harrison, thanks as always. Talk to you again soon.
Thank you.